The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Tell Us Why, a podcast for the financial freedom community. If you're looking to succeed in your quest for financial freedom, make sure you join us every week as we, along with our guests, discuss different stories of success, how they were achieved, and how you can do the same. And of course, we ask them to tell us why. Here are your hosts, Jack and Mike.
Welcome to the Tell Us Why podcast. I'm your host, Jack Darrenpool, here alongside my co-host, Michael Ketchin. Mike, you all right over there?
Yeah, just thinking about the intro. So. How you doing?
I'm good. Today we'll be discussing goal setting.
Very important.
It's that time of year, you know. And I'd like to touch on journaling a little bit, but it's another edition. Yeah.
Okay.
Dude,
right.
come
We're
on.
that.
And it's another edition of the Financial Freedom Series here on the Tell Us Why podcast.
Boom.
But before we get to that,
Yes.
what's happening?
Actually, this very thing, which is why we thought it was time important, that it's the end of the year. We're winding down to the end of 2021. 2 years into a COVID world. I think it's a fascinating time to be an investor. Yes, I think goal setting and other skills are more important than ever. So that's where we're at. What about you?
So, a new project, not real estate related.
Not real estate related?
Not real estate related.
Are you out here getting different streams of income?
Another stream of income, potentially. We haven't launched it yet. A little bit more on the e-commerce side, but a friend and now a business partner are getting together, starting a new business. Not ready to announce it yet because we haven't really...
You're going to offload this to management, or are you going to run
Oh,
this?
yeah, I'm definitely going to VA it and get all that. Once it's
Systematize
up and running,
All right.
systematizes, and then it's just going to be recurring stream of revenue.
I don't know how
Do you
that's
like the
going to
side
play on
effects?
Audio. Oh boy, those people watching the YouTube stream and Facebook just got a special treat. All right, so before we go further off the rails, we're going to jump into a great episode, but we should probably do this week's episode is brought to us by.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Are you sick of being treated like just another number by large insurance companies? Do you want a more personalized experience with somebody that you can trust? With Keith Monteith, that's exactly what you'll get. Keith is an experienced professional who can design an insurance plan tailored to fit your specific needs. With access to over 30 insurance carriers, Keith is able to shop numerous markets to find a price that works for you. So if you want an insurance agent that you can rely on and one that has your best interests at heart, then call or text Keith today on 978-241-2363. That's 978-241-2363. Keith Monty. He'll get you covered.
Okay, so mixing it up a little bit, starting with a quote here. The tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goals to reach.
Wow, that's
Boom.
a good one.
We
Who
still have a
said
quote
that?
of the week. Don't you worry about it. We'll get there.
Who said
but
that one?
That's a Benjamin Mays. I like that one a lot.
I like that dude who's Benjamin. I don't know Benjamin Mays.
I've never heard of him, but
Well,
it's
he's
a
got some
great
wise
quote.
words.
Smart
some
man.
Good words. That's awesome. So you want to tell a little story time before we get into this?
Let's do it. I love story time.
I threw something up on social media and shared with the Tell Us Why
You threw up?
community. No, I did not throw up. I threw something up. I put something on social media, smart ass, a couple weeks ago where I was flipping back through an old, I just call it a journal. I guess Jack calls it journaling. Must be that Division I education. And it was kind of cool. It was something from 2019, October 2019, and the second half of the page was all my business goals, which I hit. But what was on the top half?
Oh, I don't know.
First
What
half
was
was
it?
this little thing called Tell Us Why podcast.
What's that?
Question mark, because I wasn't grammatically correct back then either. But it just goes to show that, and we had a kind of a cool moment where there was about 20 items listed on this page, and I think 19 of them have been completed.
Yep.
Now coming up on 2 years.
So you failed miserably.
Yes.
19 out of 20.
98%. But I wanted to share, and it got us talking about how it's amazing where you just put something down on paper, and then intentional action is coming up again. And you almost create that accountability by making it real, by putting it down. And it was so empowering. It got us talking, right?
Yeah.
End of the year.
For me, like when I write, like I can say I'm going to do 1,000 different things,
we
but
know.
unless I write it down, it's not happening. Like if in my calendar, if I put everything in my calendar, if I don't put it in my calendar, it's not happening. But if I don't write it down, if I don't have this goal written down, there's a pretty high likelihood that I'm not going to do anything and forget about it,
Yes.
to be completely honest. So
Yep.
that's how I work. That's how my mind works. So that's why I think journaling
Journaling. Here we
and
go
goal
again with
setting
this.
is so important.
Well, I think it is, and I think what's funny is, we tend to think as of super successful people through like this different prism, like they've got superpowers. No, in reality, what they're really good at is taking the little actionable tips, just like this: reading every day, writing every day, holding themselves accountable, leveling up, and we can all do this. We can all implement this. And what was really interesting to me, we had a conversation a few years ago, and I don't even know if you remember it, but I remember it. You actually said something to me that was very pivotal.
Boom.
Usually I'm giving him the advice. So this is a nice change.
That's blasphemy.
But what happened was I said, man, I don't know. I'm not really writing. I mean, this one, everyone, all the buzzword was, you got to write down
I
your
do
goals
remember
every
this.
week and blah, blah, blah. And you said, Mike, are you kidding me? I said, what? You think about your fucking goals more than any person I've ever met. I might not write it all the time and be all fancy, but to
All 20 of them at the same time sometimes. But
it kind of took me a second to be like, man, I guess I am kind of obsessive, people might say. I'm not sure.
obsessive was good.
But it was. And what we're showing here is, I think of every person in life, regardless of what you're doing. And I like to say all the time, whatever we give our attention to bears fruit.
Absolutely.
And it's so true. So what we're going to get into today is hopefully a couple actionable tips. We're working on something to share with the community where we're going to try to link in the show notes for this episode. We haven't developed it yet, so hopefully we get it before production. Is a graphic organizer or some kind of template to help you with the Tell Us Why community to organize and share your goals. And then we're going to ask everybody to share a photo of those with hashtag #BetOnYourself to hold each other and our community accountable. And I think it'll be great. I think it'll be awesome a year from now to go back and look and say, how did we all do as team members? I'm gonna get producer Chrissy to do a few because I got a few we can work on. But we're gonna, we'll talk about that off it. No,
Shots
I
fired.
saw her
Shots
looking over there
fired.
nodding.
Wow.
No, but she was nodding along. But no, seriously, I think that's a great thing for the community. So again, to get it, we're gonna have everybody blast out. We're gonna share the organizer, and then we want everybody send a screenshot with hashtag bet on yourself, tag @TellUsWhy, and it'll be kind of a cool year project to hold each other accountable. And our website will be live at the start of the year.
Boom.
Building a community. Check that out. All right. So I want you to start with the framework that you pulled up here because this is kind of funny to me. Go ahead.
Funny good or funny bad?
A little bit of both.
Perfect. So the first nugget we got here is goals provide direction and focus.
Okay. And what kind of goals are we talking about?
I know you just want me to bring up SMART goals for some reason.
Yes.
I'm not sure why.
So,
I don't know what I'm getting into
all
here.
right. So Jack goes to do the show research, and he's like, I got this great thing for goals called SMART goals.
No, I've heard of it before.
I went,
but
wait, what? So when I was in education back in 2012, I think,
Back
around
in the
this
day?
time. Yeah, back in the day. Actually, this is kind of back in the day now. SMART goals became the big buzz thing in education. I don't know if education came up with them, if they were for it, but what I think the irony here is now SMART goals are everywhere throughout business. Everyone's using the SMART goal framework. Education, and this is what we go back to, not knowing what they have. Every teacher at every school district was pushing back against these. These are foolish. These don't actually measure anything. And then people started interpreting, became this whole thing to do. And now here we are. People are running multi-billion-dollar companies using this framework. And what really resonates with me from this is it doesn't go back necessarily to the content. It goes back to the person instructing with the content, right? I feel like there's a lesson there. And to reemphasize that, a SMART goal is only as good as the person writing it down and the person implementing it and the person sharing it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that goes back to your Rich Dad Poor Dad story when you're 21. If you're not ready and willing to put that information to use, it's useless. Mm-hmm. So when you were when you're 31, it hit you at a different point in your life. It's the same thing with stuff like this. Like I remember in college learning about all this stuff, and at the time I remember thinking I'm like a mission statement. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, why do I need to know this?
The guy relaying it to you doesn't have any energy, and you're thinking, how is this applicable? There's no real world example. Fast forward, you're like 50 now, so fast forward those 30 years, and that time's come. So let's define a SMART goal. Do you want to attempt to read this, or do you want me to read this?
So it's no. So SMART goals, it's an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely.
Ooh, I like that. Give it one more time.
Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely.
Congratulations,
SMART
Jack.
goals.
Dalrymple can read.
I read it twice. Boom.
So, Jack, let's pretend I am an investor, an entrepreneur, and I am trying to grow my business.
I'm uncomfortable with this exercise. Right?
Yes, we're going to put something through the SMART goal framework, okay? How can a goal be specific, most importantly, when you're journaling?
I want to be rich. That's
Wait a
specific.
minute.
That's
Okay,
it.
go play the lottery.
So no, like specific, like a goal, like I want to be rich. That's not a goal. That's nothing. It's a waste of your time saying, yeah, it's an I want. Exactly. So if you want something specific, like in a real estate investor circumstance, it's I want to own 2 doors by the end of 2022.
Yes.
That's what year it is, right? Next year?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. 2022. I want to own 10 doors. I want to own or have $10,000 in passive income through real estate.
I want to launch a business. I want to launch 3 streams of income.
Exactly.
I want to, I want to get in shape, etc. So the more specific you are with the goal, dare I even say, step out one step further, tie this to your why.
That would be extraordinarily powerful.
So you've got your
Amazing.
why going
Oh,
through this framework,
wow.
looking at it, right? So specific. So let's stay with that example. Let's say that we want to launch a business and we want $5,000 in passive income by the end of the calendar year. Okay? $5,000, not $5,000 a month, just $5,000. I want $5,000 in truly passive income. So that's a specific goal. Now,
It's a good goal for my new venture.
I
like
think
that
it
one.
is. I like it. I think you should go with that. And I think the next...
Write this stuff down.
The M is very impactful. This is the part that I think people get tripped up on. Measurable. Measurable to me actually means manageable, and it actually means accountable. That's how I look at it when I see measurable.
Agree with that.
Because if you just sit here staying with the same framework, okay, I want $5,000 a month in passive income. Okay, that's great. Well, do you want it all in one transaction? Do you want $500 a month? Well, that's going to be more than $5,000. That was bad math. Or, are you going to, what does that look like? Is it $5,000 in debt? Is it, good debt? Is it loans? Is it, what is it? How are you going to get there? So the framework to make it measurable and the steps you're going to take, that's going to make you go deeper. That's going to say, okay, here's my why. Here's my very specific goal that's tied to my why. Here's how I'm going to measure if I actually completed this goal. And then a step below that, you're going to get into the process of how you're going to measure that, right?
Yeah.
Because we might look at results and we might exceed and we might fall short of our goal. But if the process is in place, okay, the steps, the framework, we're heading in the right path often.
Well, I know you make fun of my journaling, but like when you write out goals, like you have a yearly goal, if you break it down into monthly goals, weekly goals, daily goals, you're going to develop those habits that'll be able to get you to that goal by the end of the year.
Talk about that. Expand on that.
Oh, man, I wasn't ready for this one. But don't laugh at me, Chrissy. But no, I mean, if you say you want $5,000 in revenue, whatever, we'll go with that example, $5,000 in revenue by the end of the year. You want to get that $5,000. Well, what do you need to do today? You can't do anything. You can't wait 11 months and then decide to do something in November. Like you need to start today. And what can you do today? I know I'm going to steal Brendan Turner here, but the minimal, what is it? MINS, like the minimum something next step or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it means. But basically you need to do something today. And what is that thing that you can do today? So if you start today, it's like, whatever, I need to research how to start an e-commerce business. Okay, so I'm going to go online. I'm going to go to YouTube University, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend 2 hours today doing that instead of watching Netflix. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I can do today. Or I can look at deals if I want 10 more doors by the end of the year. I can go look at deals. I can create a cash flow calculator.
I
mean, there's
listen to a podcast.
Listen to a podcast.
On that topic,
there's 1,000 different
into.
things that you can do, but you need to be doing something.
Yep.
And that's why I think like the big goal is great, yearly goal is great, 10-year goal is even better. Break it down into 1-year goal, and then if you can go down to monthly, weekly, and daily goals.
So back to education, which I find ironic again how much of this shakes up. We used to call that chunking, right? I like to say now, and I don't remember what business book it says. Well, chunking is not throwing up. That's inappropriate, Jack.
Know, maybe.
So
pretty sure it is.
Back to taking a big thing. Like what we like to say is think big, aim small, right? If I say, hey, back to what you first said, I want $1 million. Well, that's great. And in fact, you can get $1 million relatively easy. When you think about the $1 million and then you start breaking it down to that exact framework Jack just said. And if you say, okay, I'm going to have $1 million, it's going to take me 5 years to get there, repeating this process. Well, that can almost seem overwhelming because if you look at the delta from where you are today to the end goal, it's daunting, right?
Yeah.
Like we used to say it back in education, if you're giving a kid a textbook and a student might be a struggling reader, and you're saying, hey, you need to complete this book or this curriculum by the end of the school year, it's daunting. But when you break it down and you say, okay, we're going to do 5 pages a day, and then we're going to summarize those 5 pages. And then at the end of the week, we're going to be able to summarize that. And you're chunking it and you're breaking it down. You're understanding. You're doing 2 things that are very important for goal setting, business, and I just think life in general. You're actually going deeper and you're refining the skills needed. It's not so much about the book, the content, that one specific goal. It's the process and the framework, because once you get those skills, they can be transferred to multiple different avenues and areas, not just that one specific thing.
I mean, even thinking like a different context in your goal, like I want to read 20 goals in 2022. Well, how am I going to do that? Am I going to read 22 books in December? No, I'm not. I'm going to read for an hour every day, and I'm basically breaking it up in that smaller increment. So I want to read 1 book a month, or let's go with 12 books for the year, so simple math. I want to read 12 books in a year. I'm going to read 1 a month. I'm going to read for an hour every week. That's plenty of time to read a book within a month. Or 30 minutes a day is more.
Yep. I was saying an hour a week probably doesn't get it done, but I was going to let it go because, again, I know reading and speaking is hard for a podcast host. So, staying with that. All right. The next one, Attainable. This one I kind of have. This is the one that I think it can be very dicey, right?
Very dicey.
Because if you aim too low, aim too low,
absolutely.
What is the point, right?
If you aim too low, you're going to hit it.
Yes. And if you aim way too high,
shoot for the stars.
Oh, don't give me that bullshit. I hate that. So don't give me this warm and fuzzy shit. We're not a warm and fuzzy podcast. So you want to really land at something that pushes you. Like they call it, the comfort zone, all that stuff. Yeah. But it is true. We grow when we get uncomfortable, right? So if you think, hey, let's zoom out again. Let's get out of real estate. Let's just talk business in general. I'm in a sales role. I know that X number of phone calls leads to X number of closes, but I'm terrible on the phone. All right, well, if I'm comfortable making 5 and I can really crush it if I do 20 cold calls a day, start with, I'm going to do 10 cold calls a day. I'm a little uncomfortable. I'm doubling what I'm comfortable with, but I'm also not going all the way to 20 where I'm going to be so burnt out after that 8th phone call that there's no way I make the final 12 because I'm tired of getting my teeth kicked in. That one simple mindset shift makes your goal attainable, but also makes you grow as an individual because you continue to refine your practices, which I think is very, very important, right? This shows up all the time. Health and wealth, they say they go together. Too often, we're coming up on that time of the year. There's going to be explosions for gym memberships everywhere. Everyone's going to be rah for 3 weeks.
3 days.
And then 3 days. And then at the end of it, they're all going to fail short. And I really believe the reason they fail short is they're thinking, I want to lose 50 pounds and it's going to happen like this. Yeah. Well, no, we talk about instant gratification, delayed gratification. We've touched on the Financial Freedom series. Go back and listen to previous episodes. You really need to delay gratification. And most things in life, the longer you delay that reward, the better the results because they're compounding over the time it takes to obtain said reward.
I mean, there's 2 things that I want to touch on there. Like Simon Sinek, just going to the gym example, Simon Sinek was something online because that's where I spend my life. Was talking about if you go to the gym on day 1, you look in the mirror, you're going to look exactly the same. Look in the mirror on day 2, you're still going to look exactly the same. But you have to trust the process, and that's where this, I think, journaling for me at least, gets you. If you trust the process, then you'll make progress. If you look in the mirror after a month, you're going to look a little bit different. You look 12 months, you're going to look very different. 24 months, you're going to be very different. Mm-hmm. You might even be fit.
Might even be jacked.
Even be jacked.
All right.
But I mean, it's just the things like that you do the little things, the habits, the little habits. I know there's a book, and I wish I could remember the name of it right now, but
trust me, no one's surprised that you can't remember.
I can't. I don't even remember the names of books when I read them. I have to look them up after. I get the context. I don't care about names. Names don't do anything for me. So it's the context that matters.
Okay. Relevant. Why is relevant important?
Because if you set irrelevant goals, it's a waste of your time.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. I mean, you can't say, hey, I'm going to be a full-time real estate investor and then go out and launch a recruiting firm. Like they really, they really don't tie together.
Very true.
But people are guilty of this all the time. We call it shiny object syndrome. I am notorious for this. And it's because when you're an entrepreneur by nature, you see opportunity everywhere. You see problems. We are naturally problem solvers. So guess what? When you're addicted to problem solving, you see problems everywhere.
Oh,
okay.
Nice plug.
Yeah, thank you.
Addicted to problem solving.
One thing I've had to work on, and I'm still not great at it, just ask my wife, he'll tell you, is I don't know how to say no to things. Like I always have to give my opinion when it's warranted or not. So thank you. Staying relevant to that. Now, Chrissy is definitely getting a smarko with that face. Staying relevant is so important within business. Like I even look at our own operations as we're doing kind of a year in review, and I'm like, man, as much value as I add, I also bottleneck a lot of things because it's just my personality. So I have to work to improve that. Yeah. So it's very important to stay relevant. Last one. This is the thing that brings it all together.
Timely? Timely brings it all together.
Why is timely important?
Well, I don't know. Why is it?
You don't know why timely is important? Well, let's think about it. I look at this two ways. One, the ROI on your time. Time is the most precious resource we all have. It is the only thing that is guaranteed that you have zero control over it. Life happens. Things get in the way. Things come up. Unexpected things happen. You're at the mercy of the market. You're at the mercy of the economy. You're at the mercy of all these factors that are out of your control. That's one side of the equation. The other side of it is the time it takes within these goals to obtain them and the resources you're going to deploy to do it, right? We say all the time, do not jump over $1 to pick up a quarter. And people do it notoriously. Can't be swinging the hammer and writing the check. Right? Yeah. Why did Jack hire a property management? All jokes aside, he did it because he realized to grow his company, he couldn't work in his company. He had to work on his company, right?
Yeah.
We talk about with the podcast all the time, right? We realize we need to get our recording more streamlined so we can work on Tell Us Why, not in Tell Us Why.
Yeah.
So those two factors for timely are very important. And bringing it all together, if you don't set aside the time and you actually don't look at what you're getting out of that goal, it might not be attainable. For example, if you're, let's just stay with the health one, because that's something we can all relate to. If you are a person who truly hates getting up early in the morning, or conversely, you have a very stressful job, you might have kids, marriage, everything, you don't have time to work out till 9 o'clock at night, but you're going to be exhausted. It might not be the best time. You're going to have a hard time completing that goal because you're already putting yourself in a position to fail. So maybe you need to look at it and say, okay, I need to take my lunch break. Or I need to work out 3 times a week instead of 7 because it's measurable, it's attainable, all right, and it's timely. Yeah. So I think those two things are very important to tie that all together.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree. All right, so now some tips. So Jack has touched on journaling. Why don't you touch on journaling a little bit and get into that?
No, I think we've kind of touched on it a bit, but even like the timely things, like if you set it up so that you can measure a weekly goal instead of just the big yearly goal, like you can then say whether or not you accomplished that goal. So in a timely manner, like have I done this week? I said I was going to do this on Sunday night. Did I actually do it before?
Accountability.
The accountability. And I think that's really what it comes down to, for me at least, is holding myself accountable. Like, granted, you could have external accountability partners like our mastermind group, in general.
Wow.
But even like other people, like if you want to get fit and you're working out with somebody and you're planning to meet them at 5 o'clock on Tuesday morning and you don't show up, he's going to give you a ration of shit, or he or she is going to give you a ration of shit because you ditched them. Like if you have somebody there depending on you to work out that day and you don't,
it's on you.
It's on you. So, really it just comes down to the accountability for me. And this is what I found has made me accountable, because as a business owner, like I'm self-employed, I work for myself. If I don't do it, no one else is. There's no one there, in theory, to hold myself accountable. Like I could lay in bed for a week or a month if I wanted to. Like I can go to the beach every day, but I still have things that I need to do, and I need to hold myself accountable.
And your goals you want to improve upon.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to stay stagnant. You're not complacent.
Exactly. Yep. So like I could just be like, all right, I'm done, and just sit back, do whatever I want for the next 20, 30 years. But one, life's not going to be fulfilling. And two, it's going to be a complete waste of my time.
Yes.
And I like you alluded to earlier, time is your most valuable asset, and I don't want to waste it.
Well, it's true. And again, it compounds both positively and negatively every day with every decision, which leads to one more thing I want to touch on before we get to the big three is, and this is one of our goals for 2022 personally, it's the clarity around your decision making. Learning when to say no to certain things. Understanding that you need to be more selfish. And selfish is not a bad thing. I think we tend to give it a negative connotation because we think of it that way, when in reality, if you flip it, if you reverse it, having that clarity around your decision making and your goals gives you the framework on what opportunities you should be pursuing and what opportunities you should be passing on. And you need that framework because if you don't know where you're going, you don't know where you're going to end up.
You're going to get there.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. So I think this is really good, as I mentioned, to bring it full circle again. We will share with anybody. It'll be linked in the show notes. We'll share it with the community. We are going to have the Tell Us Why goal framework. We'll put that together, tag us in it, hashtag bet on yourself, and let's all track our 2022 goal progress with the community.
Crush them.
I like that. And with that said, I think we've got the big three around goal setting, correct?
Yeah, you want to touch on any resources that you'd recommend to our listeners?
I will tell you, the Tell Us Why goal setting graphic organizer that we're going to share is a good one.
He is a plug master now.
I think
Just
that,
unbelievable.
because I really want to, I think this is so important for everybody involved.
Not his first rodeo.
Nope.
I also
man.
would tell everybody, this is a little different than what we usually do. This wouldn't be books or resources, but I'm going to tell you 3 things that you can do that are relatively free. And if you do them once a month, you will see, I guarantee, results. You will be in a better place. Go to one networking event for whatever you're interested in, okay?
Good one.
Read 10 pages a day. That's
Also
it.
a good one.
10 pages a day. And the third and most important one, all right? Go find forum discussions, phone calls, podcasts with people who are, in your opinion, wherever you're at in life, a level or two above where you think you're at right now in your goals. Spend time with them. Find conversations. Try to add value to those conversations, those networks. You watch the way you level up from doing those 3 things at the end of a year.
Oh.
I guarantee that and the goal framework will take off.
And just to piggyback on that, like obviously YouTube University, there's the same premise basically, but
Yep.
I mean there's thousands of different resources out there. Pick whatever your niche is, go Google it, go to YouTube, and learn more about it. Also, it's not called this anymore, but the 90 Days of Intention Journal by Brendan Turner. Mm-hmm. I love that. Like that was life changing.
Good resource.
For me. I did it. Well, that's how we got into the mastermind together.
Yes.
That's the only reason I bought it originally was to get into the mastermind.
I basically did it for the same thing.
Yeah. But now, like don't listen to Brendan Turner, but I've ripped it off and basically put it in an Access database so that it pops up every morning at 5 a.m.
Wow.
So that I fill it out every single day. I don't, but I do it a lot. So I need to do it every single day, and that's going to be on my goals for 2022.
Every single day. We're going to hold you. The
Every single
community
day.
is going to hold you responsible for that. The listeners. So again, to reiterate, listeners, Jack now is going to have to share at the end of every week on social media his weekly filled-in journal. That is happening. Jake, please make sure that's in the show notes. I want that in there. You are screwed. You done goofed.
Crap.
And staying with that same thing to bring it full circle, something that someone said recently, and it really hit me. It hit me like very, very much, where if you are the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. And what I'm finding a lot of right now with the way we grew and everything this year is I'm doing a lot of the coaching. I'm doing a lot of the talking. I'm not doing a lot of the listening. So guess what? It's time for me to get uncomfortable. It's time for me to go seek out a mastermind or another level up with guys who are where I want to be to go continue my own personal development. So that's going to be another one of my big goals for next year.
I like that.
All right. So should we hear who this Big 3 is brought to us by?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's now time for the Big 3 segment, brought to you by QS Private Lending. Are you looking to finance your next deal quickly and reliably with less hassle and paperwork? QS Private Lending is one of the oldest and largest hard money lenders to real estate investors in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Our quick and simple short-term loans require no appraisals and have enabled hundreds of builders and investors to profitably acquire and renovate thousands of residential and commercial properties. To experience the QS difference for yourself, call or text Luke Conroy today at 315-323-0250. That's 315-323-0250. QS Private Lending.
Okay, it is time for the Big 3. Mixing it up a little bit for the Financial Freedom series. But let's start off with the first question. What is one piece of actionable advice you would give someone setting goals for the first time?
Find an accountability partner. And if you want to know my feelings on friends, which we've never shared, a real friend is not someone who tells you what you want to hear. They'll tell you what you need to hear. And if you don't have that person in your life, you need to go find it.
That's great.
And it's just the truth. It's to be our best selves. I mean, if you're surrounded with people who think the same way, who act the same way, who won't challenge your opinions, like it's okay to disagree with people. And you need to be challenged. You need to think through those things. And that shows up in business as well as in life. So I think that's something we can all do. And Doesn't have to be negative, doesn't have to be destructive. And I feel like we're getting to, again, like I said, warm and fuzzy. We all got to, worry about people's feelings and all this other stuff. When in reality, you need people who really want the best for you. If you listen to what they're saying, yes, listen to what they're saying. And again, as long as they're not negative, tearing you down to tear you down, it can be productive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's my piece of advice. What would you add?
I like that a lot. That was a good one. Great work today.
Thank you.
My piece of advice would be write it down. Write it down. Like, I don't want to spoil the quote of the week, but putting things on paper, like I said, seems to solidify, in my mind at least, what you want to do and what you need to accomplish. So write it down. That's mine.
I like it. All right. How do you recommend committing to and completing your goals by year end?
Kind of relates to the first one, but by writing it down, you can then look at your goals, see what you've done, see what you haven't done, see where you need to improve, and just, again, you don't have that. If you don't have that external source keeping you accountable, you need to do it yourself. So, again, it's just with the writing it down.
And to piggyback off that, it's scary, but Jack and I are two people who our lives revolve around our calendars. Set a monthly reminder, or even a weekly reminder if you want. Have an alarm go off. That's what I do when I really can't miss something. I put the calendar, I put an alarm clock, and I'm like, why am I having an alarm going at Thursday at 5 o'clock? And it's, I
always freak out when that happens. Yeah. Like, what did I forget about?
But, it ties in. But doing that makes you have that time to have that honest 30-second or 1 minute review with yourself. And the best part about it is, if you don't like the results, guess what? You're in control. Total accountability. We preach it. Yeah. You are a result of your actions. So if you don't like something, change it. All right, that's good stuff. Number 3.
Whoa.
Wait, you're asking me. Whoa, I almost got it backwards. All right,
what's one thing you want your 9-year-old self to say to you about goal setting?
Oh, man. Jesus, that always is tripping me up again. Probably should have read this before the show.
Well, I'm going to start off.
Go ahead. You go first. Yeah.
There's a quote. I think it's a Bill Gates quote. Most people, I wrote it down so I don't mess it up. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. I don't want to get to be my 90-year-old self and realize that I've underestimated what I could have done. Like, one of my goals this year were grossly underestimated. Like, I blew my goals out of the water, and now I'm pissed at myself for having such short-minded goals. I don't want to be 90 years old on my deathbed and figure out that I could have done 10 times more than what I've actually accomplished.
And have no one to blame but yourself.
Exactly.
I like it. Yeah, so staying with that, the piggyback of Jack, I think I would want my 90-year-old self to say, you actually executed the plan that you mapped out. We have a very specific lifestyle design in mind, and I'm sure it will change, it will evolve over time. For right now, I feel like I'm in a race against myself. It's almost like this self-made urgency, but I want to hit that, and I want my 90-year-old self to say, hey, you know what? You did that. Everyone said it was unconventional. Everyone said it couldn't be done, but guess what? You did it. And that's kind of what I'd be looking for.
I like it.
If that makes sense.
I like it.
I feel like this was good. So where can the people learn more about Tell Us Why, Jack?
Well, let's drop it. TellUsWhyPodcast.com. In addition to our goal setting that we're going to be doing, I want you to go on there. If you have any input for us, there's a comment section. You can go on there, give us some input. We'll get it as a listener, talking to you guys out there. So give us some information if you have any constructive criticism. Preferably not just criticism.
Some great ratings and reviews, even, dare I say.
Great ratings and reviews are great, but if there's something you'd like to see or something that we've done that you'd like to see more of, let us know.
Yes,
help us create our goals for 2022.
Absolutely right. And at TellUsWhyPodcast.com, we'll have a link to all the swag. It will also have a link to past episodes, cut-ups. We're doing some pretty cool stuff there. We plan, I don't know if it'll be ready or not, have some forum discussion and some of the resources we've talked about to kind of cross over. And, dare I say, the Tell Us Why goal planner to help you define your why and the steps to get there will also be linked on there.
I like that, yeah. Definitely.
We'll be doing it. All right. So,
all right. Wrap it up with the quote of the week. I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say. Flannery O'Connor.
That's really good. That's good.
And that's it for today. Be sure to join us for next week's episode. And until next week,
bet on yourself.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.